And on the show today, we talk about an important decision that's come for the telecom regulatory. Now, it's an order on differential pricing, and it sounds very technical, but really it's about all of us and how we use the internet and what kind of accessibility we have. The panel, the Telecom Regulatory Authority, has said no to differential pricing, which means that all the companies or the telecom providers, people like Facebook and Airtel, who were offering what they were saying free access to the internet for a small price, access to various sites, that has been turned down. So it is a major thing, but it's something that the TRAI has ordered. Lots of people, lots of activists who were saying that they are for saving the internet, they were for net neutrality, they are cheering this order. So we'll be speaking to them. With me is Raman Chima. He is a lawyer, he works for Access, they've been advocating it. Also joining us, another advocate of net neutrality, MP, Member of Parliament, Rajiv Chandrasekhar. He joins us from the capital. And somebody who says it's a terrible idea is from the TB Ramachandran. He joins us as well. We'll hear from all of them with how they interpret this order. And of course, our audience, young people, everybody who uses the internet, we'll hear from them as well. But first, let's just hear what the TRAI chairperson said while announcing this order. And remember, it's about all of us and how we use the internet. So we have to pay attention to this.
No service provider shall charge differential pricing on the basis of application, platforms or websites or source. So it should be not based on source, destination, type of content or the application. We have also sort of made exceptions or exemptions in case of grave emergencies. Anything on internet cannot be differentially priced. That's the broad point which we have made in the regulation.
So it's an issue which divides people. People on one side say, look, we in India are a poor country, we need free access to the internet, whoever provides it. While other people say, look, it's taking away the democracy of the internet. So people like Facebook have already come out, given statements saying that we're very disappointed with it. TB Ramachandran, the Broadband Forum, you're saying that this is a terrible thing to happen. Why is that?
Thank you, Sumitra. See, first of all, I would like to clarify that this is a decision of the authority on the differential pricing aspect. It is not a decision on net neutrality because that has not even been defined yet. And the DOT has to define it. Regulator is waiting for it, and I think consultations are going on. So we should not take this as a decision on net neutrality. We all support net neutrality, but it has to be defined for the Indian context. Number two, what I would like to state is that India needs desperately to augment its penetration of broadband. We are far below even our neighboring smaller countries. We are ranked 144 in the League of Nations of 162 in broadband penetration, and that's pretty low. So we need to improve that. For that, it is better that we give at least part of the internet free rather than the whole internet. If somebody can't have the whole internet, he can at least have part of the internet, he tastes it and then he moves on. So we need to do that and not worry about other aspects, because the charges are not to be increased for anybody else. They remain at whatever they are, the website, content, what they are priced. Some sites are given free, which demand less resources, which are technically similar. And I would like to say in this context, Sumitra, that you cannot say that say a YouTube demands the same resource or bandwidth as an email browsing. So equals is not equitable. To be equal is not equitable. The net was never designed for such neutrality.
Okay, let me
it is
get
designed to be open
point. On
and
those points
not,
that you have, on those ones, he's saying it's not about net neutrality. Would you agree with that?
Well, see, if it sounds like a dog, looks like a dog and barks like a dog, it is a dog. But leave that aside. I think what the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India's chairman said today, they've taken a strong decision. In fact, if you see the order, it says very clearly, this isn't something new. We're building on past decisions by the Government of India and the telecom licenses. Discrimination is not okay. Today, the Telecom Regulatory Authority of India said that economic discrimination on data is not acceptable. They've laid out rules for that, and that's what they've advanced for. And I think that's what's very clearly outlined.
And you're all celebrating that.
I think we're celebrating that because the TRAI has recognized and said very clearly that if you don't prevent discrimination on the internet, you don't really have the internet. The benefits, all the things that Mr. Ramachandran just talked about, it only comes about when you have the open web. For example, it just reminds me of the idea that around 70, 80 years ago, right at this spot here in Delhi, the British government used to say, well, Indians need limited democracy, not full democracy. But democracy is democracy, right?
I like the way how the analogies come up, and I would want you to elaborate on a couple of those points. But first, let's just see how young people, before we take it to Rajiv Chandrasekhar, just how, and it's interesting, one person in the audience over here gave the analogy of the quota system. Why did you feel that? Why did that analogy come up?
With the decision that came up today, for me, it's a moment of celebration. And as Sir was saying, it's full democracy. And yeah, I do think that had free basics or, whatever the companies were trying to propagate, had that been there, then it would have acted like the reservation or the quota system that we already have in our institutions, or maybe other
You mean someone
other organizational structures. Yeah,
okay.
I actually mean someone controlling. But yeah, this is nice and a happy and positive decision for me.
Okay, so many people over here, a lot of the free internet evangelists who are celebrating. But Rajiv Chandrasekhar, as someone who has been campaigning for net neutrality, why aren't you celebrating just yet?
No, I am celebrating, and I don't want you to feel that I'm not celebrating. I am celebrating, because I think this marks not just the first step towards net neutrality, but it is also a significant swinging of the pendulum away from policy being captured and influenced by telcos towards being more focused on consumers and consumer rights. So there is a real reason for consumers to celebrate, because this is the first time in many years that the regulator has stood out there and stood out for consumers, and in a lot of ways, tossed away these arguments, these facile arguments that telcos have been making for some time. But having said that, Sunetra, we must understand one thing. Differential tariffs and differential pricing is one element, an important element of net neutrality. But there are other significant issues, for example, the fast lane, slow lane, which is the issue of prioritization, which goes beyond tariffing. This is about long-term contracts or medium-term contracts between one website and a telco, where a telco basically says, I will give you faster access to your website and slow down access to your competitor's website. So there are many issues. Now this issue, for example, is not an issue that the regulator can intervene in. Yes, of course it can happen, and it can happen today, and it may be happening today. We don't even know it because we don't know what exactly is going on. And because the regulator doesn't have the powers to intervene on that issue, is why the regulator has not taken on the full issue of net neutrality. It has taken on an issue where it had the powers, which is tariffing, but there are significant issues left before our internet can be guaranteed to be fully net neutral.
Okay, there's someone here in the audience. There are lots of people who have questions about the fining system, because if you look at the points which the TRAI, the telecom panel came out with, while saying that you can't have differential pricing, they also levied this fine. What was it that you wanted to know about the fine? Yeah.
TRAI has imposed a fine of 50,000 rupees per day, and it has said that there'll be a trial check after every 2 years. But my question here is, the people who are new bloggers, those who do not have big giant sites such as Facebook, Google, what about them? Is it a justified decision to have a trial check after every 2 years? Will it stop the exploitation for the new bloggers?
Okay.
Absolutely. No, I think there are two things here. One, I think TRAI is just starting the enforcement process. And remember, there are two things, right? They're saying financial penalties, but remember, they're saying we're going to take actions on the basis of the license. And if you remember, telcos don't have an automatic right to do business in this country. Telecom companies operate on a license given by the Government of India, because spectrum, which we all use when we use a cell phone, is a public resource. It's not a private monopoly. Now they can take immediate action, and that's there in the order. The financial penalty is an additional element on top of that. And I think the other element that they put in there is TRAI said, let us review the rules in 2 years. So they're saying we can improve it, we can add more elements, we could even connect it to other rules like Mr. Chandrasekhar mentioned on broader net neutrality like fast and slow
Do you think
lanes.
they'll have to levy fines? I mean, will people be flouting this order?
Well, one hopes that they don't. Let's see.
But
I think
that
in
could
practice
happen.
that could happen, and I think that's what TRAI said early on, saying the order takes effect from today. TRAI is very clear, this is a regulation, this is not a recommendation, this is not a direction, it is binding law implementing from today.
Yeah.
Which in first they're given 6 months for some consumers to have a grace period to move to other packs, but from today, if telcos violate this order, they will be fined per day.
So, TV Ramachandran, I want to ask you, is this the end of free basics, Airtel Zero, all these things that we're talking about? Is this the end of that? Because TRAI has ruled.
Well, it looks like it because, see, I have to read the detailed order and the reasoning of the TRAI. I'm sure they have put in some very sound arguments there. I'd have to read that. I didn't have the time for that. But on the face of it, from what has been communicated in the press release and from the highlights of the detailed order, one thinks that things like free basics or Airtel Zero may not be allowed because, in effect, they are giving some sites free while others remain as what they are. Now, this is something which is what I feel strongly about. You are denying access to the people who are not connected. You and I don't represent India. There are 1 billion people out there who are not yet connected to the net because our penetration of the net is not like mobile.
It is saying of having free internet. Is there anyone who supports that, who wants that? That yeah, you do. Why? Yeah.
Because if we get the free basics, so more and more people will able to get online, and the making of chows become lesser. Okay, and it should be reconsidered. The free basics should be reconsidered because I think just sort it out by saying that it is economically differential, economically unfair. It's not like that.
So
it
Rajesh
should be reconsidered.
What would you say to someone who argues that point, which is what people who are, in fact, Facebook's statement said that we will continue to get more people online, which seems like a noble aim. How would you, and some people over here in the audience want that. How would you argue against that?
No, Sunitra, I have said publicly that I actually endorse the goal of getting more and more people online. But the unfortunate power of this zero rating, the unfortunate consequence of zero rating, as noble the intentions of Facebook are or claim to be, the problem with this is that it puts power in the hands of telecom companies that will be misused and quite surely will be misused. So the regulator is trying to walk a narrow path between saying yes, we would prefer a cheap, inexpensive access to the internet, but by doing so, by allowing telcos to zero rate, you actually give power to the telcos to start playing God and gatekeepers to the internet. And that starts a process of cableization of the internet, which becomes then in many years, in a few years, becomes very difficult to regulate and reverse. So I think in balance, the choice is being made that we don't want telcos to get more powerful and start controlling the internet. And there may be other ways of looking at how to bring the unconnected online.
Okay, Ramachandran, do you want to add to that? This argument against,
I'll add to that in saying that you can see it even before TRAI. TRAI's main job has been to promote broadband for nearly 15 years. And the one interesting thing you'll notice, even from the telecom companies, even from their representatives, until even a year ago, none of them actually said that zero rating helps increase internet access. They are all focusing on infrastructure, none of those people. And in fact, very learned economists and broadband specialists have noted that zero rating actually provides a disincentive to telcos. Rather than growing infrastructure, they'll try and charge more on what's already there. So we have that. And I think even what Facebook said, that look, we want to continue on this, that's noble. Help with infrastructure, help with new technology, whether it's drones, whether it's new broadband, whether it's fiber. That's what we need. Not cutting up the small pie into even smaller segments, but growing it, as one of my friends keeps saying.
Okay, so we'll take a short break on agenda. Now, when we come back, we'll look at the judgment a little closer as well and look at how the government takes it up next. Stay with us.